All right, I'm checking in the morning after the 49ers preseason game Sunday night against the New Orleans Saints. You've probably heard me in the past kind of downplay the meaning of the preseason games. And so I'm not going to draw a whole lot into something that we didn't see throughout practices that maybe appeared in this game. But I think the good news for the 49ers is that everything that's been going on the practice field carried over into the game. And I'd say exhibit A of that was Jacob Cowing. So this is a guy, fourth round draft pick from Arizona, who did not practice much early on because of a hamstring injury, but just in the last week has been getting out on the field and making an impact, catching quite a few passes. And so I think the number one thing that shows is that he's won the confidence of not only the coaching staff, but his teammates. So that carried over for him having a very nice game as a receiver on offense. But I think the more significant development is that he appears to be getting more and more comfortable fielding punts. And I think that's his ticket. When you look at the 49ers wide receivers, I know we haven't seen much of Ricky Pearsall. He's been injured. He had the hamstring injury that he reported to camp with, and now a shoulder injury. He's running on the side. I think that if these were regular season games, he'd be out there playing, but there's just no reason to take any chances with him. But I think the top four 49ers receivers are set, assuming, of course, Brandon Ayuk remains with the team. I mean, when you have Debo, Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, and Ricky Pearsall, I think those four guys are solid. Then the fifth guy, the guy who is most likely to dress up for a game, suit up for a regular season game, because the 49ers will keep six receivers, but only five of them will be active for game day. And that's where Cowing comes in. His ticket to being on the field in uniform is to be able to handle punts flawlessly. And that's what he did Sunday night. That's what it looks like he's been doing. He's been gaining a lot of ground in that area. If Cowing isn't reliable fielding punts, the only other guy the 49ers would turn to is Trent Taylor. Now, early in training camp, Kyle Shanahan kind of telegraphed their intention of, they could keep Trent Taylor on the practice squad as an emergency guy. And you can bump up a practice squad player twice onto the active roster for games before you have to make a permanent move. So that's the way I think it's really trending, is that, opening night, it very well could be Jacob Cowing back there, number 83, fielding punts. Two other rookies. And this is interesting because in this draft, you looked at it and you go, wow, the 49ers, they don't have a whole lot of holes. There's not a whole lot of opportunities for somebody to step in and, make the team A, but then B, be a contributor. 49ers are showing that they might be four guys who could step in immediately and have a very big role on this team. Obviously, Pearsall, their top draft pick. Then the next guy would be Renardo Green, who the door's always been open for him to have a role in the 49ers nickel defense. And with Isaac Yiadom, the veteran, I think that's the guy he's really competing with. And he's been out. Yiadom has been out for a couple of weeks now, more than a week, almost 2 weeks, with an ankle injury. And that's opened the door for Green to play on the outside. And that's where he's more comfortable. So preferably, the 49ers would not want Deommodore Lenoir moving around, playing outside corner in base situations, and then sliding inside to nickel in those money downs. But I think that I don't know that the 49ers have any other choice. I think Lenoir is one of their two best corners. So obviously he's going to start out there opposite of Charvarius Ward. But he's also, I think, far and away their best nickel guy. And he's fully capable of handling those duties. So I think that right now, Renardo Green has put himself in a very solid position to be the guy who enters game in nickel situations with Lenoir sliding inside. Okay, so there's two guys right there. Pearsall, actually three guys. Pearsall, Green, and I mentioned Jacob Cowing. There's also Dominick Puni, and the door is wide open for him to be a week one starter at, at most, and probably at least be somebody that Chris Furster rotates into the action to get him some valuable reps at right guard. John Feliciano has been out throughout training camp with a knee injury. Spencer Burford has missed considerable time with a broken hand. He had surgery. And so Puni has stepped in and he's played very well in pass protection. Now, he hasn't been quite as solid as a run blocker, but with his size, with his athleticism, and in fact, if you watch the 49ers produced Brick by Brick show, it was kind of interesting when Nick Bosa and Fred Warner were on the sideline and they were talking about number 77, Dominick Puni, the rookie from Kansas, who can get out to the second level. And Warner talked about how he had a difficult time shedding a block from him and mentioned that he's only going to get stronger. So those are four guys right there that are really showing up. Another guy, their final pick, Tatum Bethune, who's a linebacker. I think he's been the leading tackler in both of the preseason games, but I think his kind of rise as well enabled the 49ers to release Ezekiel Turner, the veteran special teams guy. So Bethune has a decent chance, a good chance of perhaps making the 49ers roster as a special teams ace. So that's kind of a rundown. That's kind of what I took away from a game where not very many of the 49ers starters played, whether for holdout, hold in, injuries, just resting guys. None of those injuries to starters are seen to be anything that will last into the regular season. It's just a lot of just being proactively just being very tentative about getting guys out there. There's no reason to rush things. There's now 3 weeks until the start of the regular season, and it's been a different kind of training camp for sure. So we'll see where this thing goes, and we'll see where it goes specifically with Brandon Ayuk and Trent Williams, two guys who Williams has not been around, period, seeking a new contract, replacing a lot of his non-guaranteed money with guaranteed money. We'll see how that turns out. 49ers have always expressed optimism that will get sorted out. And then for Brandon Ayuk, I mean, something could have happened long, long ago, but it just keeps going and going and going. And, 2 weeks ago, I thought, well, it could be any day now. Resolution could be happening. And that doesn't seem to be the case. And even last week, there's reports of things getting closer and this and that, and still nothing's happened. But Ayuk was at the game last night watching it with his other, I guess, teammates until he gets on the field. So that's the quick rundown from the preseason game. Brock Purdy wasn't sharp. The first team offense certainly didn't look good, although it's kind of a stretch to call it the first team offense because I think only, well, let's say if Puni is a starter, you had Puni, you had Colton McKivitz, and Jake Brendel, I think were the only starters other than Brock Purdy who were out there. So probably not a big surprise that the offense struggled. And Josh Dobbs made perhaps a move toward really jumping in there, that competition with Brandon Allen for the number 2 quarterback job. And the rookie, Tanner Mordecai, undrafted rookie, looked pretty good at quarterback as well. So that's the quick rundown. Jennifer Lee Chan and I also talked more at length on the 49ers Talk podcast. So subscribe to that, check that out, and also had an interview, a sit down with Kay Adams, the NFL host. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll check back at some point in the future.